was losing it though when the goblin was like, "Your Majesty, we captured the prisoner." They bring in the pigs in chains, and I'm like, "Why is the pig in chains?" Like it looks so ridiculous. And they were like, "If you don't tell us, if you don't use your power, you're gonna get it." And they have like a whole executioner's block where they're gonna cut the pig's head off. I'm like, it's a pig.
Dragon claw, wing and scale. Come now, let's examine a tale of the greatest beast ever considered. Another episode of Big Flying Lizards.
Welcome to Big Flying Lizards, the Dragon Movie and Television Podcast. I am your host, Bryce Wilson, and I am joined by the one, the only, Chayce Smith Hernadez. Chayce, how we doing?
You know, I go by in Chayce's Glaces.
That is true. Chayce's name is literally saved in Enrique Chayceus in my phone still to this day.
All I know is I'm gonna be your hero.
I can be your hero, baby.
Is that not such a perfect lead-in for everything we're about to play?
Random thing. That was my mom's ringtone for like 5 years. So
Why do you think?
I try to not think about these sort of things. But Chayce,
Good one.
do we want to tell the people what we're discussing today?
Yeah, we are discussing How to Train Your Dragon. I'm kidding. We're doing the Black Cauldron.
Apparently you didn't watch the film because you're not training that dragon in front of you right now.
No, I'm definitely not. I am fucking around. No, this is the Black Cauldron.
We are covering The Black Cauldron, a Disney film of 1985. And if it's all right with you, Chayce, I'd love to do a quick introduction to this film.
No, I think that would actually be more than appropriate, and Mac is okay with it, so let's do it.
Right. Well, I'm glad Mac gives the support. The Black Cauldron is a 1985 American animated dark fantasy adventure film produced by Walt Disney Production in association with Silver Screen Partners and received by Walt Disney Pictures. It is loosely based on the first two books in the Chronicles of Prydain by Lloyd Alexander, that turned series of 5 novels that in turn based off of Welsh mythology. Set in mythological land of Prydain in early Middle Ages, the film centers on a wicked emperor known as the Horn King who hopes to secure an ancient magical cauldron that will aid him in his desire to conquer the world. He is opposed by a young swineherd, Taran, and a young princess, Elwyn, and a harp-playing bard, Fifferder Flam, and a friendly wild creature named Gurgi, who seeks to destroy the cauldron and prevent the Horned King from ruling the world. The film is directed by Ted Berman and Richard Ricks, who had directed Disney's previous adaptation of The Fox and the Hound in 1981, and was the first Disney animated film to be recorded by Dolby Stereo. Several scenes in particular of the film's climax were found too disturbing for children during the screen testing. The newly appointed Walt Disney Studio chairman, Jeffrey Katzenberg, ordered the scene to be cut, which caused the release to be delayed to 1985. It features an assembled voice cast of Grant Bardsby, Susan Sarandon, Freddie Jones, Nigel Hawthorne, Arthur Mallet, John Biner, Phil Foncarrero, and John Hurt, and with John Hudson serving as the narrator in the prologue. It was Disney's first animated film to receive a PG rating, as well as the first Disney animated film to feature a computer-generated image. The Black Cauldron was distributed theatrically through Buena Vista Distribution on July 24th, 1985. The film received mixed reviews from critics. Being the most expensive animated film ever made at the time, it was a box office bomb, just grossing $21.3 million against the budget of $44 million, putting future Disney animation departments in jeopardy. Because of its commercial failure, Disney did not release the film on home media until 1997. It has since gained a cult following. Fun fact, Disney discussed in 2016 that they were going to mess around with doing a live adaptation of this.
Mm-hmm.
Because of a specific live-action adaptation that was recently released, Disney has now announced that all live-action projects are currently on hold indefinitely. So it looks like this movie has gotten the shaft twice by Disney.
It's funny you say that, because that's where my mind went immediately. It was like, When was the last time that Disney released a movie with new technology that pissed everybody off, and so nobody watched it, and it was a bomb?
I don't know about you, but I really think with this movie in particular, the source of its lack of success, I think, has to just be that this is like for a kids film, pretty dark, and especially for movies that Disney was producing at the time.
No, there's nothing happy about this film.
No, like even the main character in the beginning, he's low key like hazing all the farm animals and like beating them with sticks, and he's like, "Haha, I am a hero. Take that, goose." Haha.
Yeah, this is one of those movies where things just sit. Some scenes just go a little too long. You know what I mean? It's just one of those. Like, it's like they had like the technology, but they have all of the timing of everything wrong. You're like, he drowned the pig a little.
I think he enjoyed drowning the pig a little
Yeah,
too
but
much.
also I think it's just like normally like there's like that rule of like the scene's got to change every 3 seconds, right? They didn't play by that in this. And it's like some scenes you're like, that went on a little bit too long.
I actually read these books when I was back in, I don't know if it was junior high or high school, and I loved these books when I first discovered it. I don't remember too many of them just because, late CTE and other drugs that I've used in my life.
Well, the ibuprofen goes straight to your brain.
Hey, let me tell you, them ibuprofen, that you don't know what they're putting in it over these days.
It's not pure ibuprofen anymore. They're mixing it with fentanyl. They're putting stuff in the ibuprofen. It's making the freaking kids gay.
Let me tell you, they're talking about the pussification of kids. I think you found the source of it. It's ibuprofen.
We are off to a great start.
Hey, I mean, if they want to get just sort of a recap of what's going to go on, they could go watch The Enchanted.
There's other stuff. That's not why you're here. That's not why you're here.
Anyways, the 5 books, I really enjoyed the books, and I hadn't seen this movie until after I read the books. And I'm not going to lie, I was really disappointed with this movie after I'd read the books. On this rewatch, I enjoyed it a lot more than I enjoyed it after reading the book, because it is like oddly very different from the books, where the Black Cauldron is actually the second book in the series. So like they incorporated the very opening of the book and then they just jumped right into book 2. So I don't know what the whole logic was for doing that. I don't know if they just didn't think the first book had as interesting of a story as the second book did, or I don't know, because they were working with the author. Like there's been some situations where they've taken a story and they've completely changed it up, but it's like based generally around this. No, this guy was like, they had documents. They were discussing it. And I also have some other facts about this, where he began writing the book and released it in 1964. And the Black Cauldron book itself came out in 1965. This guy just cracked out 5 books in 5 years, in 4 years. Like that's
how big are these books?
I'm guessing they're probably about 200 pages.
How hard's that?
Nah, I mean, I do that in a day.
We all know writing's not a skill.
Writing's
not a skill. Writing's not hard. We don't need writers. We have AI. Okay.
Hey,
we don't need storylines. This is not what this podcast is about. This podcast has been very anti-writer from the beginning, and I want to make that clear. This podcast is not for the skill of writing, okay?
It's an art. It's an art, Chayce.
Yeah, and what does art do for us? That's right. That's right.
Turns our kids gay.
Turns our kids gay.
Well, we have David in the chat here. He might actually want us to talk about the movie that we're discussing here, but he did say, I only saw the movie once, couldn't get into it. And I think that that's sort of, there's a lot of truth to that, David. I think it has the bones to be a good film. It's just like Chayce said, it just extends scenes a little too long, and then it just feels rushed because they're like, oh shoot, we just spent 10 minutes talking about a pig that can see into the future, but not really discussing how the pig can see into the future. And it's weird.
See, I don't know. I actually really enjoyed this movie. This was as I was watching it, I was like, I could watch. This is a movie that, like, the best example of this I could give is it's the perfect. Someone else is watching it, you're in. I'll never put it on, but if it's on, I'm in.
Yeah, but for me, I feel like that has more to do. I'm nostalgic with that particular art style, like
Big
this,
time.
like
Big
the
time.
Sword in the Stone. Like it's that. Like I was a big fan of the Fox and the Hound, what the previous director did. That was one of my favorite Disney movies growing up. I really like that one. It's weird. I loved the Fox and the Hound. I loved Aristocats. Like I loved the really weird
Yeah.
Disney films that are there.
Exactly. It has its place.
It has its place. But speaking of having its place, do we want to go ahead and dive into chapter 1 just so
I
we can
think we
start
shall.
talking about the film proper?
I think we shall.
Alrighty. Chapter 1. The quest begins. The setting is the peaceful farm of Caldebaran, where Taran serves an assistant pig keeper. Dalbin, a wise enchanter, learns that the Horned King seeks the Black Cauldron, a relic that can create an unstoppable undead army. Fearing for Henwin, an oracle pig, will be used to locate the cauldron, Dalbin orders Taran to take her to safety. Henwin is captured by the Horned King's Galanthians, and Taran sets off to rescue her. Taran meets Gurgi, a mischievous but loyal creature who follows him. Taran infiltrates the Horned King's castle, but is captured and imprisoned immediately. Princess Eilonwy frees Taran, and they escape into the castle's catacombs, where Taran claims a magical sword from an ancient king's tomb. This movie is literally all over the place.
Yeah.
How close are they living to the Horde King's castle?
You know what? As you were reading that off, and I will refer back to this. This movie was meant to be an Adventure Time episode.
Okay, take me down this path.
The Lynch King, easy one. But just the storytelling of it, like you're like, okay, boom, this happened. He's it, and like the quickness of it is like the quickness in which I would watch an episode where he's just like, and so I feel like the only reason this movie got such a bad rap is because Disney movies up to this point weren't in this style, and so I feel like if you go into this movie expecting a Disney movie, gonna have a bad time.
Well, I think that's right. I think it's also the particular styles they tried to have their cake and eat it too, where they wanted it to be like a dark, scary story. And like the beginning is metal as fuck. Like when they're opening and the cauldron's there and there's like the most evil man, even the gods feared him, and so they imprisoned him in this cauldron, and he can bring the dead back to life in this cauldron. And then it goes over to Taran like, ha ha, I want the war to go on forever so I can fight. Ha ha, take that, goat. Like it's just going back and forth between, like, the imagery is just so dark and just so like, and again, I know I say dark after watching Hellraiser over here, but I mean like dark as in this is a Disney film. This is early Disney. This is meant for children. Like,
Yeah, in that sense, like, and especially when this came out, it makes sense why it did so poorly, because there just isn't anything out there like this that has just that the undertones, the overtones, the art style to all of those things where you're just like, that just doesn't. It doesn't feel like a Disney film.
no, it doesn't. It feels more like a Warner Brothers, or like, I don't know if you ever watched The Swan Princess when you're it's probably one of my favorite non-Disney films that are and animated and made during like my childhood. It's a really fun film, but it's a lot darker than typically Disney is, and this felt like that. And but I think that Disney got the message like, oh, we can't make scary things. We got to make like happy-go-lucky things. But like I love it. They made a lich evil, like their villain. Like I don't think we've ever seen
No, and like,
anything.
and even the actions as we get into that chapter, like, there's no playfulness to like the evil that's in this at all. It's like, and we'll get into those scenes, but even, I mean, even like the wash, and he, you know, the first chapter of like he's wanting to like war not to end because he wants to be a warrior. There's like the, you know, the youth in it, but it's not like there's nothing playful about it. It's just like, oh, that's very like dark. Like none of the like youthful playfulness comes across as that. It just comes across so contrasting to like the actual like art style in the story that you're just like, that is just eerie.
Yeah, I was actually having this conversation. I can't remember if it was at work or with my family, but it's just so like every guy will deny it. Well, I should say every guy. I feel like every guy has fantasized about being the most badass Navy SEAL-esque like ranger at one point or time. Like
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter who you are, like for whatever reason, like there's something in us that are like, I'd love just to be this like, and I don't know if it's just the indoctrination that people have of just wanting us to be these like renowned fighters and warriors. I don't know if it's just the part of us wanting to be very skilled at something that's very difficult to do. I don't know, but it feels like in a lot of these films that there's always the equivalent of that. Like there's Taryn wants to be a great knight.
Yeah, I think if you look at the writers of a lot of the films that we're watching, though, they grew up through a lot of those times where, like, that was kind of the sales pitch, that was the propaganda, right? Like, so, like, it doesn't surprise me that you see this, like, not even a calling to be, like, a warrior, but, like, this, like, you know, wanting to grow up and be a soldier type mentality. But also, like, I don't know, I think that's just the male experience. It's just to, like, want to whoop all the ass. And then you show up to like your first day of football practice and you like see some like 13-year-old and you're like, why is he 6'3"? I'm
And
not gonna
three
whoop any ass.
and 360 pounds.
Yeah. There's no ass whooping that you're ever gonna do at all. And so I feel like there is a lot of that in there in this for sure, where you just the main character is the one I really, as I was watching this, I was like, this is such a odd depiction of this like character. Like it's one of the weirdest things to me.
Yeah. Well, and again, I feel like this is some of the disservice where it the first two books, again, I don't remember a lot because it's been several years and several bowls since I read these books. But they the first book was more covering like the humbling and like realization and the whole like Taryn, it's not about being a warrior, it's about being a good person and be like sort
Mm.
of that sort of situation. And then while the second book is more about like learning sacrifice, learning how to like actually like what it really means to be a warrior, because by the end of the book he's obviously this great renowned warrior who's the whole like, yeah, a stereotypical fantasy novel sort of situation. And I think this is where they did the disservice of trying to just rush to like the good parts, because we need that character building showing. Like we got more character building from Gurgi in this movie than we did from the main character.
Who's really the main character, you know?
Exactly. Which I just have to say, Gurgi is straight up just Gollum. Like you can't tell me otherwise that Gurgi is not Gollum. Like even the way he sounds and talks, he's just like, "Oh, Gurgi will show you what it is. Yes, Gurgi's your friend." And I'm like, is Gurgi like Elmo and Gollum's love child together?
This may be controversial. I hate Gurgi.
That's not controversial at all. I was even thinking while I was watching the movie, why is he here? Like he literally stole the apple and then lied about knowing where the pig was and then like ran away when there's issues and he was like, Taryn, my friend. Taryn's fine. Like, no, he's not. Like, are you?
It's just the big thing for me. He feels, this is the best way I can describe it. He feels like he was added in for the movies. Like it doesn't seem like he like there's nothing. Speaking of not making sense, none of it makes sense. It's like, speaking of my own Gurgi.
Well, Gurgi is actually in the books. That's
I know,
the
but
weird.
it's just the way he sits into the film.
Yeah.
Like you said, like he adds quite literally nothing.
Well, I mean, you say that, but at the same time, he's the reason that they defeat the Horned King.
Yes, but it feels just like the author was like, I'm just gonna put like, you know that what's his face with the big fro that used to do all the happy paintings? What is his name? Bob Ross.
Bob Ross. I was going to say Kid Ross, and I'm like, that's not it.
This is the best way I can describe Gurgi. Is it's like You know, when like that video of like Bob Ross, she's like, "Oh, that we made a mistake. We're gonna make that into a happy little bush. Like this is a happy mistake." It feels like he wrote the character and he's like, "I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with Gurgi," and then finally he's like, "Oh, Gurgi will have this like it's just it seems like he like put him in there, and he just like just a little mistake, and it just
Yeah.
happened to see its way through the whole story."
And we'll talk more about it once we get to chapter 3, because like I get it. He serves a purpose. He's the true hero, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, I get it. But I just had to highlight David. He said, yes, hate Gurgi. And
Okay, cool.
then he also said, but I also hate Taryn, which I think is very fair because
Solid. I did not love him. Like you're watching, like the story would have been better not having him in front of it the whole time.
let's just have the Horde King win. Like that's he had me rooting for the Goblin guy. The Goblin guy was more interesting of a character. Like
Big time. It's amazing this is done as well as it has, considering how bad some of the characters are.
well, it didn't really do that great. It lost $22 million.
That's a tax write off.
It's a charity at this point.
But like the cult following, like you know what I mean? Like
Oh yeah, yeah.
it's
And
it's one of
well,
those.
I think I actually might try to explore that because I've been really just trying to branch out and read a ton of different fantasy novels. I've read several that are new to me, but I might be checking out. I might want to revisit these ones just to see like how they hold up, if they are still meant for just a younger fantasy audience, or I don't know, just see how it goes there and just experiment with these things. I will say though, I do enjoy the Horned King as a villain because he's so like he is so unapologetically evil.
That's what
He's
I'm
not
saying.
even it's not there is none of the Magneto side where he's like it's for the greater good. He's like, no, I'm evil. I want to raise an army of the dead that can come and just wipe out everybody. And like I again, like I said, as a big D&D fan, liches are huge, and I love the fact that they made the villain into this lich who's over here just trying to raise the dead, and he also just has an army of Neanderthal idiots just in his castle.
Yeah. No, I think he's the highlight of this. But he literally just does not play at all. And like I said, when we get into chapter 2, we'll talk more about it. Because there's this like I have a note about it where I'm like, this scene like as a child it would be traumatizing.
Yeah, I feel like there's so many of these scenes that are traumatizing. But I mean, I think I'm thinking of the scene in particular that you're talking about, but whenever like it looks so good. Like the Horned King's castle looks like a castle in Mordor.
That's actually taking a step backwards. And I know we already mentioned this slightly, but the animation in this has held up so well.
Oh yeah.
It looks good. Like all of the characters look good. Like that's the big thing with this. Like the film really does look super super good. The everything. And I will say, Henry, big fan. Big fan of the pig. Big fan of the
Well,
pig.
that's the thing. I just was so like okay, there's an oracle pig. How'd that happen? How'd that happen? They just like, oh, Hedwig is an oracle pig. I'm like, cool. Did you just wake up one day and this pig was like able to tell the future? Like, how'd that happen? Oh, we're not going to talk about it? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's 100. But my thing is it's not even. It's just the personality of the pig. Like he's like, it's like I'm or she. Which this is my. Why is the girl pig named Henry? Not that they can't be named Henry, but like it just doesn't make sense, especially for a Disney film of the time.
Hey, they were progressive back in the day.
It just throws me out because it's like, oh, Henry, and it's she, and you're like,
I was losing it though. Like when they brought the pig, like when the goblin was like, "Your Majesty, we captured the prisoner." They bring in the pig is in chains, and I'm like, "Why is the pig in chains?" Like it looks so ridiculous. Like why is the pig in chains? And then like when they were like, "If you don't tell us, if you don't use your power." You're gonna get it, and they have like a whole executioner's block where they're gonna cut the pig's head off. I'm like,
so
it's a pig.
that's the exact scene I'm talking about. That's traumatizing because when they bring the pig in, you're describing the scene well, but you're forgetting the pig is like screaming for its life, like actually, it's like, and it's like they go drag this thing over to the block, And this thing is like begging for its life way longer than it should be for the scene. And it is like a hard watch. It is just like, what?
It's not about the money. It's about sending a message. And David in the chat, I think, just told us that the name's Henwin, I think it is.
My dumbass heard Henry the whole time.
Well, I mean,
Henwin not much better.
No, it's not. Like, what's a pig doing with the last name? Like, what the fuck is going on here? Gurgi is over here with a single name. Taryn's over here with a single name. And then this motherfucking pig's got a last name? Oh, let's talk about that too. Why is Taryn not getting, like, this sorcerer is like, oh no, we need to feed the pig first. We're making food for the pig. And then you can get your meal afterwards, Taryn. And I'm like, what? Now, granted, Taryn sucks, but
it just kills me. Like, that whole part of it kills me because, like, it's just the way that, I don't know, there's no chill. It's like, oh, you're not gonna do it? Okay, cut their head off. And it's just immediately like, no, I'm not playing games with you. Like, I will murder you right now. Like, that's what killed me with the villain. Is it's like, there's absolutely, and that's like one of my biggest notes of this entire show. This show has no chill.
Yeah.
Zero chill about it.
Yeah. They'll do what they're like, we'll tell it as it is. And like, you know, I really respect that. I think we're just going to keep beating this dead horse over here, but like they just needed to get the pacing under control. Like, I think if they would have really worked on the pacing, because I even think that they could have got like, yes, I'm sure there's a good chunk of people that didn't take their kids to go see this because they heard like, oh, little Timmy went with his mom and they are still having nightmares to this day about the horned king and the pig that almost got beheaded, let me tell you. Like,
yeah. Well, I think there's that, but like one thing I'll give this movie credit for, it does such a good job of like the spot when he moves into like the first part of his travel and he like loses headwind for the first time.
Yeah.
That feeling, I'm like, man, I feel that like dread. Like, it does such a good job of being like the pigs, but like that feeling of when you lose something, you're not like that. I got that. And so they do a good job of giving you like negative feelings, but there's never a good feeling in this entire show.
No, like even at, okay, I'll save it. I do just want to also mention, I loved it when, like, again, I know that they had to make the story continue. I just loved how he pushed the pig over the edge of the wall and the pig landed in the water. That pig would have died. Like, there's no way that pig was surviving that
I
drop.
thought the same thing. I was like, and that part made me feel like, I feel really weird about it. Like, he just pushed this pig to its death, and if it didn't die, now it's going to be floating down the water and you're stuck in. I'm like, this is a real, and then he's just like, and that's that's the biggest thing in this show that really like throws me. Is it's like something like that will happen, and then he's just like completely distracted about something else. Like something horrific didn't just happen.
Yeah, well, not only that, but like this motherfucker, the Horned King. You telling me he doesn't have gators in his moat? He's got 2 dragons that are just flying around as his little messenger boys, and he doesn't have a single gator in this moat.
Yeah, and that's actually another point, too, that I don't want to skip over. Man, we get dragons almost immediately in this.
Yeah.
And then they're gone.
Yeah, like, there was even, like, hints at it in the opening when the Black Cauldron, like, it has the smoke of the dragons, and then all of a sudden, boom, the pig gets chased by dragons. Like, that's how we discovered.
Yeah, once again, just no pacing.
And I know I mentioned this earlier, but I thank you, David, for highlighting this again. I do agree that if we would have got that 15 minutes that Jeffrey Katzenberg cut from the original, I think it would have made a bigger difference. But I'm also sitting here like, what did they cut that they felt like it was too disturbing for children, considering what they actually kept in the film, you know? What was originally cut.
It really is such a short film, too. It's only an hour 22.
Yeah. Nice little...
like, especially by today's film standards where everything's like 2+. It's really not... That's what I mean. It's like really not a crazy ass to watch that.
And I mean, I actually just want to dive into that a little bit because I feel like I've had hints at this sort of conversation. And I feel like this is a good time to bring it up. I really feel like, especially post COVID, that the movie industry is deciding to, like, they're not wanting to make these 75-minute movies anymore. They don't want to make these just quick films. One, there was I mean, Netflix was just making whatever they wanted for a film. And I get it. They probably lost quite a bit of money doing so. But at the same time, like, I think they're realizing that the TV industry, they're still, like, people are gravitating to these Game of Thrones. They're gravitating to The Last of Us. They're gravitating to just all these different shows that can be long formatted. And people are like, all right, let's just give this show $500 million to be able to make something. And they're going to make a return on that. While we're seeing these Marvel movies that are getting the same funding and they're bombing. And again, I know that has a lot to do with people are sick of Marvel movies, but at the same time, I just
No,
don't think so many people are
I.
going to the movies.
This is such a good discussion. I've been having this discussion a lot actually this last week because I genuinely think that, yeah, really, I think Marvel ruined the movie industry because it's everything. If everything's not a grand slam, they don't want it, and it's at the point now where it's like, unless, and this is like my, once again, I'll give this movie some credit. One of my biggest pet peeves with movies right now, and Marvel does this so poorly, is that everything has to be everything, and so they start just pandering these movies, and so it's got to be like comedy, action, romantic, and they include everything in these movies, and that's where you get some of the worst acting from The Rock. And it's like I think of, like, you look at Fast and Furious, which is just this bloated about family. It's about family, Mac. It's about family. Exactly, and so, like, because of that, there's so many, like, in the discussion. This is a whole different discussion, but it's you end up with so many just not good movies, and then they're making less and less because they're trying to do these, like, crazy budgets, crazy big actors, and if it doesn't gross $1 billion at this point, like, it's a failure.
Yeah.
Instead of, like, I don't know, I just look at these little, like, movies that I grew up on, and a lot of them are comedies because that was, like, the easy place, right? But you got Dodgeball, you got Click, you got I mean, you can look at even the dumb ones like Accepted. You look at American Pie franchise, and you just look at, like, even, like, just so many of those movies, and even, like, smaller. There's just so many different movies, and I'm like, wow, like, those cost them nothing to make. A lot of those actors were getting paid like 10 grand because they were brand new, and it made a lot of careers. But it was like, I don't. You just got so many more films that were just doing stuff that isn't necessarily, like, super accepted amongst population, but becomes subculture, just a phenom. And so you think of all the shit that, like, you and your friends always just repeat back to yourself, from, like, Step Brothers, from, like, all these movies like that. And obviously, I think comedy is the easiest one, but, like, give credit to where credit due. I think the horror genre is the only genre where it's allowed to make a low budget weird film. Yeah. And because of that, I feel like horror films are the only ones that are progressing, where, like, you have people pushing weird boundaries and different ideas in that realm, because it's like, you're not going to get a big budget anyways. You're never like making a lot of money, like the Terrifier is such an anomaly, and everyone knows it's an anomaly, and no one's trying to recreate that. And so it's like, but every other, like, Fast and Furious franchise, everyone's trying to recreate that. It's like, no, that's an anomaly, and it's trash, and everyone knows it's trash, but everyone's just trying to recreate it because they want that $1 billion movie under their belt.
And I think it's just so interesting, specifically with horror. And Austin and I talked about this when we talked about Hellraiser. Horror is one of those genres where you can throw together a movie for $100,000, or, I mean, like, just again, I know I'd love to have $100,000, but $100,000 in the movie industry is cheap. Nothing. Like, yeah, you can throw it together and then make hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars off of it. And it's so I do think you're right, and really leading on something where horror is one of those few genres that the art is still evolving because you're trying to push the boundaries. Now, we're going to get stupid things like the Bye Bye Man, which still to this day, it's like one of my favorite just meme movies. Like, it's just so bad that it's hilarious.
But that's like, I mean, you look at The Room.
Exactly.
It Follows. And there's those films like that where you're just like, that was like this, you just leave, you're like, what the fuck was that?
Exactly. But I also just wanted to go back just specifically when you were talking about Disney, Marvel and Disney just ruining the film industry. One of my favorite Marvel movies is Captain America Winter Soldier. And it's arguably one of the darkest films because it's literally like Captain America's discovering that there's like, it's pretty much just he's discovering about Operation Paperclip. He's realizing that the government is filled with Nazis that they brought over from World War II. And like they were like doing illegal experiments on his best friend. And like you're doing like it's this crazy movie, and they're not trying to be funny. They're not trying, like, it's an espionage movie, and it actually has like some good action scenes, and it's just being loyal to itself. But, and maybe you might feel differently, but I feel like roughly about Thor Ragnarok was when Disney was like, okay, we just need to make all our movies funny. Like, it doesn't matter, like, the tone. Like, they even try to make jokes when Thanos is literally genociding the universe over here. I'm like, I feel like they should have just leaned into like all these situations rather than be like, let's do our little, it's been 15 minutes. We need a joke, guys. We need a joke.
Well, and it's like that blueprint, and it's so bad, and you're seeing it like fall apart. Because once again, one of my questions I was asking people last week, which is one of my favorite questions, which is, what is the worst movie you've ever seen? The Marvels is, without a doubt, one of the most unironically worst movies that I have ever seen. And it's because everything, it just seems like they were checking off a list of like, okay, and which just sounds so gross to say because it's like, but like, female empowerment, boom. Female friendship, boom. Like this person, like have a race that's not common, boom. And then we're going to do, all right. Because like they have this scene, and I just think of it so much. Like they're all just like, we're sad. And they're like, but we have each other. And they like hug after a planet just got destroyed. Like an entire planet just got wiped. And they're like, well, I think we have
Let's hug it out, guys. Let's hug it out.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks, younger us who looks up to us. You really made me feel good. Let's go to the next stop. Let's try better next time. And it's just like the worst act. It just sucks. It sucks. And so like that's one thing that I hate now with a lot of movies. I'm like, it's like you said, like being loyal to itself.
Hey, you know what, David? No, we are not going to be bashing the great, powerful movie Chicken Little over here. That there's going to be no Chicken Little slander in this chat over here. I watched that movie an ungodly amount of times when I was younger.
You know what? That brings up a point that I think is important. I feel like the new standard for movies, because I recently watched the Shaun the Sheep movie, and it was fantastic. It's fantastic. Why was it fantastic? Because there was no talking. And so I feel like if more of these movies tried to tell a story without any vocabulary first and then added it in, it'd be so much better. But they're just so script heavy. So everything sounds good when you're in a room and the rock's like, ha ha ha, rock thing. And then it's just everyone gets a laugh and it kills. It's like, no, it does not kill on film.
There's just, and again, I feel like this is just true for the media landscape and just maybe even the country in general. There's so many people that just need to retire. They made more money than God. They've had their time in the sun. The Rock would be so much happier if he just stuck with WWE for the rest of his career and just didn't have to worry about going on movie shoots.
After Black Adam, he should have called it.
He really should have, but he's still putting out films, and we're probably going to get Jumanji movies until we die. Until
he gets hot again. He is in a shooting slump right now, and I will give him credit, still shooting. He's like, I'm going to shoot. This is that Kobe mindset. It's like, would you rather go like 8 for 12 or like 20 for 40? And it's like 20 for 40 because I never stopped believing in myself. And it's like, that's where The Rock's at. The Rock is just shooting.
Hey, and you know what?
And I hear the Christmas movie was good.
Who told you that?
The Hey, that's what the word on the street is.
Hey, you do understand that people in Arizona have their brains getting boiled because it's now becoming, 135 degrees on the daily basis.
I will have you know, on this day in April, it was only like 90.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
You need to
it
put a
felt good.
coat on at that point.
It felt great, actually. I won't even lie to you. Let's see. I will.
If it was 95 degrees, I would have been stripping at work. Like it gets up to like 70 and I'm
Grind
over here like,
on me. Don't you put?
well, speaking of grind on me, do we want to do chapter two over here?
Let's move it on. Not an hour.
Yeah, 45 minutes and we've only done one chapter.
Part of the course here.
Part of the course. Chapter 2, Allies in the Cauldron Secret. Aaron, Elwyn, Fludor, Flam, a bard, escape the castle and are reunited with Gurgi. They seek refuge with the fair folk who reveal Henwin's is safe, but confirmed the Horned King's threat. King Elladan discloses the Black Cauldron's location and Terran vows to destroy it. Doyle, a grumpy dwarf, guides them to the marshes of Morva, where 3 witches, Orda, Orwin, and Orgoch, possess the cauldron. Terran trades his magic sword for the cauldron, only to learn that he can't destroy it except by a willing sacrifice. The Horn King's forces ambushes the group, stealing the cauldron and using it to raise an army of the dead. I hate that they sort of just breeze over the fact that Elwyn is a princess and that like literally never gets brought up again. Like, okay, that's it.
Why?
Like, just because she's a female, does she have to be a princess? Like, is that what they're trying to go with here?
Yeah, this is the worst part of the film, because it really is just like, I don't know. This seems like they went to improv, but with like 5 guys, and half of them had like wife beaters on, and the other 2 flannels, and it was like, oh yeah, okay, he's in jail. You know, it'd be freaking sick, dude. Off the floor open. Who's there? Not the pig. A little honey. Little shoddy, little shoddy up through the floor. You know, I can't make those jokes, but it's there. Anyways.
No, it does feel like that though. They're like, we need, like, you're joking partially, but you're not at the same time, because it's literally like, we need a love interest.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna say 2 words, and I'm not gonna mention anything else about this joke, but it's too funny for me to leave. And Frank. Okay, and
Are you trying to get the show banned? Are you trying to get this show banned over here? The last time you came on, you were talking about how Jeffrey Epstein had ties to the writer and director of the movie, and now we're bringing up Miss Frank over here.
I told you I was gonna say 2 words. I will say no more. The joke tells itself. The joke tells itself. Anyways, yeah. And so like this whole part of the film, it just feels so like, okay, they're gonna go out here, and then what happens? Oh, they're gonna get cornered. Oh no, what are they gonna do? And they're gonna go here, and then they're gonna like it feels so forced.
Yeah, and David is again mentioning in the chat that Flam is one of those characters that really got butchered by the cuts, that apparently there's a lot more, but I really feel like this is the section of the movie that is suffering, because it does feel like we're in the dungeon. No, we're not in the dungeon. They
David said he couldn't even finish it. Do I remember that right?
Did they what?
Did David say he couldn't finish it?
Yeah.
Why does he know so much about the 15 minutes that didn't make the film? Did he David just watch the 15 minutes?
Maybe he's got the movie turned on, watching it with us right now.
He's secretly one of like the guys that was on. He's like, no, that's not how that went. It's actually, this is why they messed up my film. I'm like, for someone that didn't finish the film, you sure know a lot about it.
Oh, he said no, he watched the movie.
Okay, he finished it. All right. You're like that person that's like,
okay, he said that he couldn't get into it. He didn't say that he didn't finish it. He couldn't get into it.
Okay, David. Okay. You're good for now.
Not only well, David, I'm thinking you're saying you couldn't get into it, but you watched the cuts.
Yeah, I was
Like,
gonna
he's
say, I was
not-
like, he went pretty deep. He disliked this. He didn't even dislike. You ever just be so meh with the film that you're like, you just dig, you just digging.
Okay, he's one of the people in the chat right now. Let's not try to be digging.
I'm not digging. That's what I'm saying. You ever find a film so meh that you're just like, there's got to be more here. Like I need to be missing something.
You're panning for gold in the Provo River right now.
Yeah. David was just searching. He's like, this couldn't just be me. He's like, this film's got to be something I'm missing. And then he went.
I also do find it interesting that like all the adult characters of the fair folk are ugly as fuck.
You know what's funny? I did not notice that at all. Because isn't it mostly adult men? I don't know. I've never seen a hot dude. Couldn't tell you what one looks like.
Hey, I'll say it. I've seen Tom Hardy.
Interesting observation.
Do you not see the shirt I'm wearing over here?
Interesting observation. All these years, I'm still learning new things about you.
That's the fun of it.
Anyways, going back to the movie. Yeah, the cuts make sense that it would be at this part because you could see there being pretty heavy content around this part of the film, but it's just once again it's not bad. Once again, it's a children's film, and so it makes sense why nothing's ever that fleshed out. It's fine. It's just not. It's too scary. Like it's like you can't have.
I mean, yeah, but at the same time, I'm sitting here like, what's this sword that like?
Yeah, no explanation for whose it was, why it's magic.
And it's literally in the Horned King's castle. Like, why did he find it?
This is my thing. This is why I feel like it's an Adventure Time film. Because this is something that would happen there. Whoa, magic sword! Like, that's something that would happen in, like, that type of cartoon. But this movie just has such a serious tone to it.
Yeah.
Where's Adventure Time?
I think I agree with that. I would really like to talk about the witches real quick.
Yeah, we do need to cover the witches.
I don't know what it is specifically about this era and time, but they love giving old women that are a little bit creepy tiggle bitties. They love giving these women
substitute teacher body.
They love giving them the substitute teacher body, and they love just getting guys trapped. Like I don't know what it like. I don't know what it is, but like I have seen plenty of films where it's like a kid's movie and we have these women that just they rocking the G cups over here and they're weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah, Disney definitely has its tropes and they really sit true.
Hey, they keep with the times. They keep with the times because, Elastigirl is like really in right now. Back then, it was the substitute teacher.
Sloppy Joe, sloppy Joe, yeah. Man, that's a deep one. Love me a little lunch lady.
But, I mean, also just on that note of the witches, like, it just felt so weird. Like, and again, we'll talk more about it, but they're like, oh, we want this sword. We'll trade you the cauldron for the sword. And then at the very end, they're all like, you want the sword back? We'll trade you the sword for the cauldron. I'm like, what do we do this for?
No, that's what I'm saying is it's just like, I don't think they knew what they wanted to do with this. Because it sounds like, I didn't read the books. But it sounds like the books had a very good story to them.
Oh yeah, I loved the books. I remember being very disappointed in the movie after reading the books.
Yeah, and so like to me it's like, okay, what where it just feels like they half-assed a couple things instead of like they could have went all in on story, longer movie, this and this, but they tried to have like a short film, a kids film, a dark film, and like bring the story in, and they just ended up with not a lot of really good anything.
Yeah. Well, I'll keep saying it. They did have a good goblin. I loved the goblin character.
Yeah, he did. He was a good goblin.
But I also am just sitting here like, where did he come from? Where did he go? Is he Cotton Eye Joe?
He might be. He
only had the one eye open for like most of the movie.
He might be Cotton. Yeah, no, great. I think that's the thing that's interesting with this movie. All of the best characters this is a whole. You know what? The one we're here, like, and when after like he does the cauldron thing, and like they go into the cave or into the water or the tunnel, not the tunnel, sorry, the fountain thing. It's like he's just not a part of the story, and they're just like, oh yeah, we'll take him home.
Well,
What?
right? It's like,
And then the same thing with the witches. Like they do, it's just like they're like it's so convenient.
and it does feel like they were really just trying to like wrap it up. We're trying to cover. Hey, chicken, but yeah, I mean, I really wish that they would have just taken the time, because I feel like if they would have stayed loyal to the books, and again, this is a conversation that keeps getting brought up, whether people need to stay loyal to the source material or if they do make their creative distinction. And what we keep sort of landing on is like, you need to be swinging big if you're going to be going like deviating from the source material.
Yeah,
Because
if we learned nothing from Game of Thrones,
yeah, exactly. Like, you can't half-ass it. Like, if you're not going to do what the author created, you can't half-ass it. You have to show that, like, and the best part is George is over here ripping the guys, saying, and everyone's on George's side. So
yeah, well, George is such a good case of like, and now we're probably never going to get them books.
hey, I chewed out David for bashing Chicken Little. I'm going to say here, this is a community of positivity. We're not going to have any of that negativity here.
Okay, we are going to get those books
Eventually.
Yeah, no, just
Someday.
yeah.
Someday.
After he's passed, someone will write the books, and it'll probably be fanfic.
Well,
That's what
I'm sure that he'll pass it on to somebody. Like, he has to.
No.
That
dude.
Is there anything else that we want to cover in this chapter 2? I feel like
No, honestly, that's the problem, is we're just jumping all over. But the story has so little weight to the characters in this stage that it's like we could bring up the gremlins, but it's like there's no story. There's so little to the bone here.
I think they started strong.
This story's a drumstick where it's just like bone, 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 and then you get all your meat and then like one bite, and you're like, all right, well, that was a movie.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. I feel like I would argue that the beginning and the end is like where it actually stays interesting. But that's also just because that's where we're seeing the development. Because here, let's get into chapter 3 and we'll be able to discuss this further. Chapter 3, the final sacrifice. Gurgi, initially fleeing, returns to rescue his friend. Taran prepares to sacrifice himself by jumping into the cauldron, but Gurgi leaps in instead, destroying the undead army and breaking the cauldron's power. The Horned King is consumed by the cauldron's backlash and his castle collapses. The witches return and Taran bargains for Gurgi's life for a now useless cauldron. Gurgi is revived and the group returns to Caldebin, where Dalibin finally acknowledges Taran's heroism. Taran and Eilonwy share a kiss and the friends are reunited, having grown through their journey. Again, the only person, like, yes, Taran had some character development, but it wasn't that meaningful in my opinion. Like,
no, and even if we go through, like, this made me think we forgot one stage of, like, when they first got out and escaped, it's like they were fighting, like a married couple, and he, like, it's just curiously swinging, like, it's like, what is, I don't know, the character, the one thing that was really interesting to me about this story that was true the entire time was they never made him not a child.
Okay.
Like, it's same with her. Like, he never once, like, had moments of maturity. There was never a moment where I was like, that's not a child. Like, even this part where, like, he's going to be pulled into the cauldron and he, like, just kind of goes, boop, and just kicks the winch, and all of a sudden the winch is in the cauldron. Like, and even, like, his reaction to, like, Gurgi getting put in there, it's just like, okay. Like, there's just, like, there's just not, like, it's just not nothing there. It's just like, it's how a child would handle a lot of those things, because it's like, I don't know how to react to that. Okay.
Well, you say that, and I agree, but I'm also sort of just highlighting what David's saying here, but it's piggybacking in a weird way. David said here, I'm so shocked that the Horn King's death made it past Katzenberg. And the reason I'm saying that ties, I feel like from the Horn King's death, well, from when he actually activated the Black Cauldron to Katzenberg's death, I'm surprised so much of that made it past. Like, because I agree, sort of felt like a meh moment when Gurgi jumped into the cauldron, but it was also like, what the fuck? Like, this is like some depressing ass shit because Gurgi is like, no, you can't go in, Taryn. Gurgi must. No one loves Gurgi. Gurgi has no friend. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this is a kid's
What
movie.
is it? Suicide.
Yeah, he literally was just over here and killing himself in Minecraft over here. Just like.
Yeah. Ugh, I hate
I
that
know
that
the
works.
lingo.
I hate that that works. Uh, that's so funny. Yeah, it's just it. This is the perfect cult classic because it's like, we're sitting here saying we're not really saying a lot of positive about this film. But if I was at home, for a holiday and someone put this on, I'd be like, sick, Black Cauldron, let's watch. Like, I would watch it again. And I think it works because you don't. It's almost like this is like a perfect like anxiety or depression film because there's absolutely no depth to it.
Yeah.
Like, this is a perfect, like, this is such a good film for that because it's like there's absolutely zero real storytelling. Like, it's quite literally like it's like if the plot was one of those trains that you just freaking rant, and it just goes and then it's done. That's it. And so it's like, in that sense, it works. Like, it works because it's, what you're getting and it's bouncing all over the place, and so you can like look up, look back down, and not miss half of it, and it does not matter. None of it matters.
Now I know that I'm just a sick motherfucker for this, but like back when I was like heavily participating in recreational activities that
Shall
involved
not be named.
elevating one's mind, you might say, I would love to just take the devil's lettuce and watch like Attack on Titan. I'd love to watch these animated shows that are dark. And I feel like if I watched this while partaking in the holiest of sacraments, I would have loved watching this movie, just puff puff passing along. But I also know that, again, I'm not a normal person. When I tell people that I watch BoJack Horseman while doing that, while I'm watching Attack on Titan, while doing this, they're like, "What is wrong with you?"
Good lord. Good lord. Yes, let's get you some help.
And this
I'm
is a
like,
plug for BetterHelp. BetterHelp is.
wow, that's a crazy plug. That's a crazy plug. Yeah, that's.
BetterHelp will make you stop doing this. Hey, I'm sober. I've been sober almost 3 years now.
I know. That's so funny. That's so good. No, but I get what you're saying. It's a watch that it cost nothing. It's nothing to be lost, nothing to be gained. Like, this is actually, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna say this is one of the best game night films.
Yeah.
Because it's on the background. You kick in, you kick out. It does not matter.
Well, and David just said very similarly, the movie doesn't end so much as it just decides to be over. And I think that's
so valid.
like, yeah, like that's so true. Like, it literally is like, all right, let's go home. Ta-da! And then fade to black.
When the Super Mario, Angry Birds, and Emoji Movie has more storytelling than you. There's more character development.
Wow. That's really putting into perspective. I love how he started this podcast off like, I don't understand why it has so much hate. I don't understand why it has so much hate. And here we are over here. The Emoji Movie did it better. The Emoji Movie did it better. I guess it's just one of those things when you actually, like, when you're looking through the window at it, you're like, it's nice. But then when you actually, like, start tasting it and, like, chewing on it and dissecting it, you're like, wow, okay.
That's the big thing here, though, is it's like, yeah, if we're sitting down and we're going to discuss this movie, it's like, it's that relationship that you're just like, man, dude, this is bad. But man, it's good when we sit down and just do nothing, have a show. And that's this movie. That's Black Cauldron, where it's just like, yeah, it's just really dark and sad, and like, you're almost there more for the vibe.
Yeah.
And the vibe works. If that's the vibe you want. This is Add this to the category of the Courage the Cowardly Dog episode with the plague, basically, where they like that dude's like, return the plaque, return the plaque.
It's funny you say that. This could have been just a fantasy version of Courage the Cowardly Dog episode. Like this
Actually, you're not wrong.
like there's no rhyme or meaning to it. It's sort of all over the place. It has like really dark imagery, but it's fun sometimes, but also like you're like, how is this meant for kids? Like,
yeah, you're not wrong. Actually, now that I take back my Adventure Time and I take Courage, because like this is, if we add it in, what we should do is we should redo it, but keep everything the same, but add in some films where like either Henwin or Taryn goes in and just gets on a computer and looks up just like how to, like, what's a magic sword look like that little bit of silly like backstory would actually make this movie so much better
in 1985.
100%. That's why we're gonna go backwards. We're gonna use that AI that Snow White killed Snow White, and we're gonna make it to make this film better.
Right. Well, I was just going to ask it. Well, first, I just, while you're looking that up, I just want to say, David, I appreciate you finding our small little channel here looking when you found us on our review of Sleeping Beauty. We'll be covering some, like, I'm sure you'll be back when we're doing Stored in the Stone. That's going to be a fun episode that we'll be covering, and just other Disney films that have dragons in it. But is there anything else that you want to necessarily cover, Chase, before we get into the dragon grade?
Yes, one sec.
You're good.
This. What I'm doing is I'm asking ChatGPT what could make Black Cauldron movie better.
Is this what the podcast has become? We're now asking AI to do the job for us.
All right, here we go. Stronger character development. Taryn and Eilonwy. Henry was not the name. Lacked depth, and giving them more personal growth and meaningful interactions would have helped the audience connect.
Yeah.
The villain, the Horned King, looked terrifying, but didn't have much personality or backstory, making him more layered, would have elevated the stakes. Consistent tone would have made it better. Man, this has got some, like a darker fantasy tone, like the Dark Crystal, might have made it more impactful.
Yeah.
Better pacing and story structure, more faithful to the books, improved animation consistency. Let's see.
I'll say this, it seems like we've brought up almost everything, like, with the exception of the better animation consistency. So we beat the AI.
Yeah, take that.
Take that, AI. They're not taking our jobs.
My goodness. Okay. And I hate AI, so I don't know why I'm doing this. But I asked ChatGPT if you could add a computer into the movie, what would you name it? This is actually sick. It's a blend of Oracle and Electron. Oraclon? Let me read the story into this. This is. It could be an ancient enchanted machine hidden deep in the dungeons of the Horned King's castle. Instead of giving cold hard data, it spits out cryptic prophecies, tactical advice, or visions, kind of like a fantasy supercomputer crossed with an AI-powered crystal ball. Maybe Terran stumbles on it while escaping and gives him a glitchy riddle that helps him defeat the Horned King. That would be hard.
That'd be hard.
That would be hard.
That'd be hard, but I don't support that the AI gave it to us.
Yeah, that's one of those ones. Yeah, that would be hard. One of the questions it asked me is like, would you like to make it like they should remake this movie, but sci-fi?
Hey, there's other sci-fis that need to be coming, so I'm okay keeping it fantasy. And real quick, David, yes, there are dragons in this movie. Why else would we, as a dragon movie and television podcast, be bringing this up? Of course there are dragons, which I think is a good segue for us to talk about our dragon grade. Each week, we cover a dragon and give it a grade on a scale of 1 to 10 in 5 areas of subjects. We give it a scale of 1 to 10 in design, special effects, character, film, and X factor. We grade from 0 to 10, 0 being abysmal, 10 being incredible, with 5 being just okay. Now, Chase, what do you give these? I don't even know what to call these motherfuckers. Like they had a name. It's the Goenthians. I thought I heard griffins, which I was like, those ain't griffins. They ain't griffins. But what do you give these pets of the Horned King on a scale for design on a scale of 0 to 10?
I'm gonna go. I'm feeling gracious. I'm gonna give them a 7
7. Okay,
for
like talk me through it.
for 1985.
For 1985.
That's a
Yeah,
pretty good design.
yeah. I okay.
It's nothing
I
fancy. It's a classic. It's a
I think
classic design, and it gets. But for 1985, I'll give it to them.
I think I can get behind that. I like the design too. I wish they were a little bigger, but I think they're meant to be like more little pets rather than like these like actual monsters that are like they're going hunting pigs. They're not supposed to be over here. But I mean, it's cool. I like the color scheme on them. I like that little ashy gray, darker tones to it. It wasn't anything flashy. But yeah, I think it's good. I'm giving it a 6.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious on your score for this. Special effects. What do you give it on a scale of 0 to 10 for special effects?
I'm gonna have to go. I want to go lower, but I'm gonna say 3.
3.
Yeah.
Okay, talk me through it.
I just don't feel like the dragons. Once again, in the story, it doesn't make sense. There's no rhyme or reason where they come from, and because of that, like the special effects, the little few that are included, just are to me are not rememberable. Like
Fair.
nothing that really like outside of them picking him up and like them seeing him. Like I'm like realistically, like they just were not. The special effects don't stick out of my brain at all.
I mean, I can't fault you for that going the other direction. I'm giving it, again, a 6. I really enjoyed the special effects. I feel like, especially for, like you were saying earlier in design, I think for 1985, like, I think the effects of them were pretty good. They did a really good job at presenting them when they were hunting as like scary beasts, but in the castle they did a great job of like, oh, they're the horned king's pets, the way that they were just perched there and like acting like little parakeets. I think that they just portrayed it well. And but again, I'm not gonna fault you for listing them as a 3 because again, I agree that there are
Outside of
issues.
the first scene, yeah, it's just like
Yeah. This one's going to be interesting. Chase, what do you grade them on a scale of 0 to 10 for character?
I'm gonna go 3 again.
3? Okay.
Because outside of the spot when they're pets, you get nothing from these dragons.
Yeah. Like, I agree as well on that. I do think that they could have done a better job at showing them more animalistic. I think they could have done a better job at showing them as like even if they are just pets, they could have shown that better. They could have like even done a whole thing where they could have been at the extension of the Horned King. But instead, we just sort of get this weird thing that they just go out and do my bidding. And like there's a level of character to them, but nothing in depth. But I was gonna agree with you and say 3, but I think I'm gonna be a negative Nancy. I'm gonna give it a 2. I think it's very bad.
I almost went there. So I'm not. I just there's it really just feels like you could have chose a lot of things that could have made sense in that. And I would go as far to say a giant bird would make more sense in this story than a dragon.
I mean, for the sake of the podcast, I'm not going to be complaining that they're.
No, for sure, but like in the story it's like like it would make more sense and be just as terrifying. This is going to sound, this is a hot take. I feel like they went dragons because it was the least animation they could do compared to the rest of everything else. Because they are pretty simple. Like, they are not crazy designed.
Yeah, I was gonna say it would make more sense for them to be like skeleton dragons than like just
Yeah. They could have, it just seems like they kind of rode that one in home.
Yeah, I think that no notes on that. But one thing that we're going to be needing notes for, Chase, is your score for the film itself. What are you giving it on a scale of 0 to 10?
I'm going to give it a 6.
You're giving it a 6? Okay. You're saying it's good?
To me, it's rewatchable. A 6 is like, okay. This is where I would put their 6s. I would put like the animated Rudolph. Like this to me is like a perfect like holiday. You have a week to kill with the family movie. This is like,
Okay.
oh yeah, throw on the Black Cauldron. It's not gonna, no one's gonna have a bad time, and it's just like, let's just fill the time with movies. Great movie for that. Outside of that, Halloween time, cozy. I got some hot cocoa or something, and I have an extra day off, and I'm in a weird mood to watch like a niche Disney movie. It has its place.
I think you've got me convinced there. Like, I feel like this would actually be a really good October time watch film. Like, it's not blatantly a Halloween film, but it's also a spooky Disney movie that's available. And if for our
there's not a lot of those.
There's really not. I hate doing this, but I'm going to give it a 4.5. I don't think it's good. I mean, I don't think it's okay, but I think mediocre is, because there's a level of nostalgia that's to it. Like, I have to appreciate it. They have elements that are amazing in this movie. Like I said, the side characters. You love the pig. I love the goblin. The castle is amazing. And it has the bones to be a good movie. And there's elements that are good and exciting. And who doesn't appreciate a witch with tiggle bitties? So, I mean,
that's what I'm saying. It has all the pieces, just a terrible assembly. And I'm not mad about that. I can get behind that 100%.
All right. So this gives us our last section, the X Factor. Chase, what are you giving this dragon or dragons X Factor on a scale of 0 to 10?
I would give it a 0, but I'm gonna give it a 1. Purely because the opening scene of when they take the pig, there is like, oh wow, there's some terror here, and you don't really feel it for the rest of the film.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a 1.
I'm going to agree with you on that. Like, there's really nothing special that sets them apart from any other dragon, that one that we've seen or two that's really been covered on the podcast. They're pretty basic. Like, the only thing that you can remotely make an argument that's unique about them is that there's 2. And dragons typically are very antisocial and not like work in pack sort of creatures, so that's unique. But even then, like House of the Dragon, like they're all like they be packing up, they over there moving as a crew. So I agree that 1 is sort of appropriate. It's pretty terrible as far as it comes to the X Factor, which the final score for these dragons in the Black Cauldron comes down to be 3.95, which is just almost mediocre, but still bad. Which, I don't think is, if anything could be an analogy on us talking about how we felt throughout this movie, I think that that's more or less where we're at.
The truth came out.
The truth did come out. But that is the Black Cauldron, guys. Thank you, everybody, for making it through for this. Chase, is there anything you'd like to plug before we call it?
No, you can plug it.
Alrighty. Well, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. We love having these new interactions. David, thank you for coming into the chat and joining this fun little community. Yeah, I know we had our laughs, and we're happy that you could be a part of these. And like I said to everyone, like, share, subscribe, share it with a friend, share it with your mom. Now, good night.
That's all for this week's Dragon Lore. Takes cold and hot, spread shore to shore. Enjoyed yourself? Please join the squad. Follow on social media at Big Liz Pod. And one quick reminder before you go, to rate, review, and share the show. Thank you for listening. It means a lot. See you next week, same time, same spot.